You got one life, for crying out loudly. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Then you don't got to worry about selling anymore because they're just too busy buying. What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Me up.
That just, how about that?
That just cracks me up. Hey, are you ready to get into this car today, huh? Like you even left the
Hey, you never know when a mic is in front of you and you leave it up to me. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, I'm always afraid of that. You know what? Actually, you know where I'm afraid of? It's like every time like you go to a funeral or something like that, they want me to speak. And what do you do at a funeral? Do you put on a show? I mean, and generally, you tell funny stories about people. And then anyway, I had an issue once. I don't want to go into it now.
Well, yeah, let's start off our first live stream talking about funerals. I think there's no better way to attract people and get them to watch than to talk about a funeral. Speaking of funerals, there's a podcast. There's a podcast that came out this week. I'm trying to think. It's something like
look at that.
The Sales Energizer. Something like that.
That's it. We got the Sales Energizer podcast rocket. I was told by my producer never to name something like podcast. So like Sales Energizer podcast. It's like, All in the Family TV show. I don't know why I picked All in the Family. Why not choose a TV show from, 1968?
Exactly. Well, it's like when someone asks you what your favorite album is, and you'll say, "Oh, it's Billy Joel Glass Houses album."
Yeah. That's right.
And
That's
no,
right.
You don't say that. You just say it's Glass Houses, right? So in any
all right.
event,
Hey, we got some people that want to be on the show.
We do.
Yes.
But first of all, we've got a comment here from our buddy Brian.
Brian
that has jumped on Facebook and says, "Go get him, Dan."
Let me tell you.
Sounds like somebody I know.
Let me tell you, Brian Converse. Brian Converse is a great guy. I met him over at RUMC. He always has a job and looking for a job. Right now, he's in transition. By the way, you can't really say in transition anymore. You used to do that.
It feels weird. It feels
right because now it could be you might be looking for another job or changing into another gender. You're never quite sure what they mean by transition. But Brian Converse, I think, is remaining male. So far as I know, and but he's willing to do. See, a lot of times with my sales training and what I do with companies, people, I get to a point where they say, that's good, it works for you, Deej, but I'm not going to try it, and they don't try, and they don't stretch, and they don't try something new. And the weird thing is, everybody knows in life and in your sales world, you always have to differentiate. And as soon as you give them an option to differentiate in some way that they'll stand out, they say, "Oh, no, I can't do that. We don't do that in our industry. Our industry is different." Anyway, Brian Converse, he's willing to lay it out there. This guy actually rented a billboard. You ever see those people they have a billboard, say, "Hire me"?
Are you serious?
Yeah, this guy is going for it. I'm really excited.
when you say do something that someone else isn't doing and do the opposite.
Yeah, that's what that
is.
That's right. You just if you don't have a real role model to follow, someone of great success or some path that you're in, just take a look at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite.
Yeah. Well, we've got some people that want to jump on. All right. So I've got Crispin.
Crispin Cruz. Look at that. Let me tell you about Crispin. You said his real name is Crispin. I mean, do you know another Crispin? He's the only Crispin on the planet.
Here we go.
So he goes by Chris, but it's just like we're talking about before. Your God and your parents have given you the blessing of an oddball name, and yet you want to turn it into a normal name.
Hey, no, he's turned it into the best name there is, Dan. Chris.
Oh, that's
Am I
right.
right, Chris?
That's right. That's
Yes,
right.
we
That's
turned
right.
it into that. I
That is
think it's
right.
an Crispin Cruz is also a my partner in crime with a sales arbiter, and he is. I have him here, and I asked him to come on here because this guy is, and I've said it to it, into his face, and so he doesn't think I'm just blowing smoke right now. This guy's a better salesman than the Deej.
You've
No,
said
that's
that. You've
very
said that
kind.
many times.
Yeah, he's as good as they get. What do you do, by the way, Cruz?
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, Dan, thank you for having me on the show, first of all. Appreciate it very much. So, Dan, what we do is we just help businesses scale and grow. I mean, that's it. We put in process to help businesses scale their sales and help them grow, 3x or 5x in a very short period of time. I mean, that's what we do.
What's a very short period of time?
Typically we're seeing results within 3 to 6 months. I mean, right away.
Boom.
Wow.
So,
that much in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, because Cruz realizes, and you should realize this too, whoever's out there that has their own business, understand this. You could be the greatest skilled person in the world, but the one thing you need in order to succeed is a flipping customer. It's a customer. Right. When you wake up in the morning, you got to think to yourself, this is the only question. How do I get a new customer today? How do I, and when you say it that way, ideas come. When you say, very similar, but not quite, when you say something like, man, there's no customers out there, you'll prove yourself right. But if you say, how do I find a new customer today? You think of all sorts of creative ways. And then that's prospecting. But once you get in the arena of sales, then you need a pro like Cruz, because he'll teach you and your staff how to do it. You know what he taught me? I want to teach you this is like the best thing
Give us the secret.
Best thing he's ever taught me. And this is very profound for me. I mean, he's big with that whole disc thing, and all that, whatever. And he'll talk about it. But I apparently am what letter am I?
You're a raging eye.
A raging eye. A raging eye. So that means kind of loud and bombastic and always wants to talk.
Center of attention.
Yes, yeah, the whole thing. You know what he?
I don't see that at all.
Really. You don't see it?
I hide it. But you know what he taught me, and this is great. And anybody out there who's in, who has this affliction that you always want to add your 2 cents and you always want to talk, but you still want to earn a living and make a sale. He taught me how to literally, not figuratively, literally bite your tongue.
That's right.
You just cannot, and it's the old adage, nobody's going to hang up on you. Nobody's going to walk out on you while they're talking.
That's right.
That's right. And so you got hey, you're trying to jump in on me? Right. Do you realize who you're dealing with?
I've tried. Yeah,
bite your tongue, Dan. Bite your tongue.
Dan is so right. And here's the thing is that, we're taught at such a very young age, we're taught that when you're in kindergarten, your teacher says, Dan, what is this shape? And you say square, and she says, well, what's the color? And you say blue. And then you say, well, if you cut that square in half, what other two shapes do you have? And you say 2 triangles. And then she gives you a gold star and she puts good job on your paper and puts a big exclamation point and a big smiley face. And where does that go, Dan? Where does that paper go?
On the refrigerator.
On the refrigerator. No one ever gets that wrong, right? It goes right on the refrigerator. So it's not your fault. It's not any of our fault. We're conditioned that way at a very young age. We're conditioned to answer the question. So when somebody asks you a question and you're in a sales event, you've got your mom, you've got your kindergarten teacher, your dad on your shoulder. And what are they saying? They're saying, answer the question, be a good boy. You're going to get a star. You're going to get a golden star. And, the problem is that the initial question that the prospect asks is never the real pain. That's never the real problem. That's never the real concern. And so what we need to do more and what we need to do better is what Dan is talking about. Bite your tongue. Nobody cares about your stuff. Nobody cares about you. And they don't care about your stories. The only thing that's important is what's important to the prospect. right?
Yeah.
And so when you start thinking that way and you start changing your methodology and this is what's important is important to prospect, then you ask that question, well, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, why is that important to you? I promise you we're gonna get there. I'm gonna answer your question, but help me understand, why is that important? And then they're gonna give you the answer. That they give you the answer, which is
but you know what it
the
is?
most beautiful place to be.
You know what the challenge
Right,
is with that? To do that, it takes balls. Sales
Takes
balls.
guts. It does.
Yeah. You call them guts.
You're right.
Whatever. Yeah. It takes.
Everyone has guts. Not everyone has
because
guts.
you want to get that gold star and you want to give the answer.
Right.
And you can't do it.
Well, Chris, I'm gonna refer to you as Chris, no longer Chris.
That's
because
fine.
Chris is
No
the best
trouble.
name. Chris is the best name in the universe.
Happy to do it.
So backtracking a little bit, of course, not giving your special sauce, so to speak.
Sure.
How do you do that so quickly with businesses in 3 months? Like, what generally are you doing without, of course, giving away sort of the secret sauce?
No, it's fine, and I have no problem giving away the secret sauce. And this is the epiphany that a lot of our prospects come to, and a lot of my clients come to is they understand, their vision or their view of sales is this, it's a riddle wrapped up into an enigma. And, oh, you're in sales. You got that sales game figured out, right? I mean, that's the way they think about it. And unfortunately, it's really not that complicated. I mean, you build scalable sales process. You keep your salespeople accountable. You build the right processes to hold your salespeople in their behavior. You make sure that you're driving the right behaviors to get the right result. It's not this riddle. It's process. It's functional sales process and these components that you're building for a business to help them get a positive result. And so we look at them, and what do those tools look like? They look like the KPIs, the key performance indicators. They look like, scripting. They look like all of these functional tools that you're trying to drive the right behavior for the businesses that I'm serving. I'm driving the right behaviors to get, some incredible results. And that's the beauty of it, is that then you have the sales reps and they're playing this role, right? I mean, you have your identity, who you are, that identity, Dan is who he is. But now if Dan wants to become a functional part of my business, right, and a functional part of my company, then I show him the role. I explain to him, this is what you need to do to be successful. Here's the roadmap, Dan. It's very easy. If you do these things, you're going to be successful. We're going to put you in a position to be much more successful, right? And you're going to grow your own compensation, and you're going to have a good time. You're going to be a part of a good culture. All of those things make sense, but they all start with the functional tools that will help you and your sales team, become scalable. That's the key right there.
That's it. Scalable, baby.
I don't know. Does that make sense? I don't know. Does that make sense, Chris? You tell me.
Yeah. It makes sense. And,
it's mumbo jumbo. This is what you do.
No. Okay. All right.
This is what you do. This is what you do. You talk to a lot of people. I was talking to a guy today. JD, is he on?
Yeah, let's get him on.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm here.
Oh, he's here.
Greetings from Charlotte.
Greetings from Charlotte. Do you
go by Charlotte?
JD, do you go by JD or Joe or
JD.
John? You don't go by
JD.
Joe because that's not your name.
My good buddies, JD.
Oh, your good buddies JD. Okay, so you're JD for us, and all the 6 people that are on the live stream here today. How many? Anybody?
Like Hollywood Squares here.
Yeah. So I was telling him before we had a little conversation that I sell businesses, and a lot of times when I sell businesses, somebody wants to buy, let's say, a liquor store. You want to buy a liquor store. So he goes into it, listen, and he starts asking for all the numbers and figure out what's going on. And I always tell people when they're looking to buy a business, man, go work there for 2 weeks. We're at another liquor store. He goes, just go into a place and work there. And I go, you'll find out more in 2 weeks by doing than you will but in 2 years by me telling you what to do.
Yep.
And JD here is looking for a new job, and so I told him very quickly, what you need to do is go on more interviews. And, what do I say when they say this? What do I say when they say that? Right here, what do I say? I don't care. You go there and figure it out yourself. You'll learn so much more by getting out there and mixing it up. Because, nowadays you talk to somebody who's interviewing you, they're 15 years old. Or they look that way. You gotta get you gotta get used to, interviewing. And even in the business world, you got a little gray hair and you're out there making a sales call. You're calling on people that could be, even they're much younger. They're a generation apart from you.
Right.
They don't have the same reference point that you have anymore. And so the only way to figure out any sense of these people is by talking to them a lot and getting
it's practice. It's training. It'll be used to having conversations that you're going to have when the job really counts. Dan, you spoke a little bit about working at the store. I worked for a company for years. I worked at Sony Music for a number of years. And every fourth quarter, when it's the busiest time at retail, the company, it was a mandate that all of us got out of our offices and went to record stores and worked at record stores for free.
How old are you? 1 million?
What's a record store, right? Exactly. But that was a mandate, and every time we did it, we brought back that real experience that you just don't get when you're sitting behind a computer, you're sitting at a desk, you're talking to somebody on the phone, you're actually going, you know what? I walked in this person's shoes. I know exactly what they're, and the customers respect you for that because you walked in their shoes and you carried their bag. So
boom. So how's the job market in Charlotte there?
I think it's strong. I think it's strong. A lot of industries. So it's a matter of pinpointing what you want. For sure.
And what do you want?
Love client management. So I'm looking for a strong client management opportunity to really help clients meet their objectives.
So if anybody's out there in the healthcare field that needs client management, there's your man. He's willing to come on. Oh yeah, down. There's your man. He's willing to come on this thing live, and really that's
I am. Yeah.
That's brave. Yes, that's brave, right?
I know that's really a point that I want to make to everybody out there as far as salespeople here. And by the way, you don't know this, but this show is sponsored by. Who is it sponsored by today?
Oh, is it time for our sponsor? Here we go. Here's our sponsor, everybody.
Okay,
well, if your sales team sucks and you don't know what to do, call Deej, 678-910-9912. Call Deej, 678-910-9912.
How about that?
Wow.
I am such a loser. Okay.
I couldn't.
But
in real life, his head is bigger than that, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In real life, his head is actually big.
Yeah, I had to size it down to make the video.
Size it down. That's right. Make it small.
The point is, with today's technology, that right now we're using StreamYard, right?
Yes, sir. Powered by StreamYard.
Okay.
Shout out to Gage.
So Chris over there is setting this whole thing up because he's my producer. Because when you get to be the DJ, you get a producer. And so he's going to make me famous, and he's going to make anybody else who wants to do this famous. But StreamYard is allowing this to stream out on where is it streaming to? Chris?
Right now it's YouTube, it's Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope, and LinkedIn is this close.
And LinkedIn will be the next one there, but all at one time. And so you, as just anybody, any salesperson, anybody in any industry, Crispin, some of our clients, anybody, we can get them on this thing, and everybody gets an opportunity. Just like by the way, JD, you need some light on you. I mean, you look like you were in a cave. You're back there. I mean, it's called a light bulb.
Gotta work on it.
Where you can get this light bulb at the record store. They have them for a long time.
It's a black light bulb.
But the point is,
serving energy.
It gives a person an opportunity to spread their message far and wide to anybody who's willing to listen. And if you really have the goods, if you have a message, if you have the game, people will continue to listen, and people continue. And that's how you know that you're getting better, by getting more listens. Right. But you got to have the guts, like we said earlier, to get out there and play around on this medium. And if you're not, somebody else is going to do it. Somebody else is going to take the light from you and make that happen.
Can I give you a 30-second example? So years ago when I was in sales, a good friend of mine, I'm going to jump anyway. I didn't bite my tongue. The spotlight theory. So you go to any professional venue or any college game, the Jumbotron's out there, right? And all of a sudden the camera is on that person and they're all ecstatic. They're just jumping for joy that they're on the camera. Then it moves away. And what happens? They kind of suppress themselves down. So when you're talking to someone else, remember to keep the spotlight on them, not yourself.
Whoa, look at that with the newcomer comes in. That's
JD dropping knowledge.
Yeah.
It's been a beautiful example to remember, easy to remember. Keep the spotlight on them, not on yourself.
So if you were on the spotlight, if JD and Crispin, if you guys were on the spotlight and they have the kiss cam.
Yes.
Yeah. So would you two smooch?
No.
No, I'm not kissing him. No, I'm not kissing him.
Okay, dude. Spotlight on them. Well, that's awesome. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having the guts to do that. How did we meet, by the way, JD?
Through my sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law, and what happened with? Tell the story. I'm setting you up here. Is this your first day?
Well,
I mean.
She needs a spark in your job search, and she knows I know the guy, Jourdan. He's the guy to do it with. So she was kind enough to spot me a couple sessions with Dan to kind of get my search going, and that's where we are today.
So she I guess a year or two ago, she was in one of the classes, and then she paid for some coaching, and of course she got hired immediately. Yeah. Because we told her how to deal with this stuff, and she was great. And then, I don't do that anymore. For special people, I will. But mainly, we work with businesses to help grow their sales team. Because if your sales team sucks and you don't know what to do, what do?
Call Dan.
Your sales team sucks and you don't know what to do. Call Deej 678-910-9912. Call Deej 678-910-9912.
There you go, that's it. And I'll get. You got to be quicker with that button there. I mean,
yeah. Well, hey, it'll get better. Yeah, hey, we've got Jason waiting to come in. Should we have him join, or
can we do this Jason many?
Squeeze him in.
Or Crispin, do you got to leave, or are you still here? Oh, Jasson, it's about time.
He's been hanging out since the beginning.
Oh, was he really?
Greatest technology,
my God.
Greatest technology on the planet.
He's been enjoying himself. Jason's been sitting here enjoying the hell out of himself. In the first 3 minutes, we talked about funerals and transitions. And any party that goes from death to transsexualism in 3 minutes flat is my kind of
boy.
Oh, God.
Great.
Can you imagine living in my brain for like 15 minutes?
No way. I'm trying that.
When I give speeches and presentations, this is true. And Jason, by the way, is, I said Crispin is a better salesperson than me. This guy's a better speaker than me. I mean, this guy is Les Brown. He's as good as they get. This guy will.
No, I'm more brown than you, actually.
Yeah, he will pump you up. I'm not even going there, but
you see where?
Yeah. I'm a bigger Jew than you. There you go. Now we're even. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So So this guy, gosh, what was I gonna say? It was so good, then I forgot. You got me all flustered.
It was the Les Brown thing that got you. Threw you off.
Yeah.
Didn't see it coming.
But he has his own podcast as well.
Right.
And I think people need to. Do you guys know how to subscribe to a podcast? I'm asking the group. Thank you so much for jumping in.
I think I might know how to do it.
Okay, but what is the name of your podcast there, Jason Smith?
I have named my podcast the same as the upcoming book, Sales Synergistics. So
really?
Podcast is on the Pro Business channel, and that's where you'll find me.
And this guy's, I remember what I was going to say. Okay, that's it. I was going to say that when I give speeches and presentations with similar that Jason Smith does, only he does it better, I go in there, and this is with big companies or what have you, I know about 60% of what I'm going to talk about. The rest comes from the crowd, comes from the energy, comes from the whole thing. That's why I got to watch out. If there was I'm not even going to say it. I'm going to get in trouble. If there was the type of person that you were talking about before in the audience, that would be the whole show.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, we got to feed off the crowd. And by the way, Cruz, that's exactly what you do with customers too. Actually, I'm going to ask Jason. That's exactly what you do with customers. How do you read a customer?
Man, you have to in every dimension that you can, right? When you're there, it's not just body language and it's not just what they say, but you got to read down to the meta messages of how they say it so you know what they're looking for. The other thing is give them enough time to talk. I love what was just said. JD mentioned keeping the spotlight on them. The more you get them talking, the better they feel they're doing. How many times have you had somebody run up to you at a dinner party or something like that and they talked your ear off, talked to Blue Street, you didn't get a word in edgewise, and they email you later. I had such a great conversation with you. I didn't say a damn thing. You talked the whole time. So
That's right.
those are the ways to do it. Every dimension you can measure to read your customer, do it. And let them talk as much as possible. That's where you get your intel.
Boom. Oh, do you see him drop the mic there? We got to let Cruz get it.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
I got it. Jason, you are so right. But here is where the junior salesperson makes the mistake. And let me ask you if you see this too. Is that they go through whether it's disc training or whatever, whatever training you've gone through to try to identify the type of prospect that you're selling to, right? And because that connection piece is important, right? We buy from people that we like, that we trust, and that are like us, right? So we do that, and whether it's consciously or subconsciously. So but you go through this training and you think, well, I'm really no better off than I was before, because what they're not understanding is that it's not going to just smack you in the face. Like the identity of a person or the role of a person has a lot to do with how you're going to categorize that person in a certain way, in hopes that you can be more like a chameleon, so you can sell your product or service and you can be more like them. But they're breadcrumbs, right, Jason? I mean, you're literally Hansel and Gretel. You're trying to find these breadcrumbs throughout the whole event, so that you can connect with your prospect in a special way.
Right.
I mean, would you agree with that?
I do, and I love that you mentioned the DISC personality training or whatever that people take. And I think the world's kind of flooded with well-meaning and very smart people who've written a lot of great books about how to dissect and put people in boxes and categories. There's a danger there that people now have filled their head with a lot of information, so that they walk in and they're not actually listening and observing. Right. They're coming in trying to put this square peg in a round hole. I know you're one of these 4 types, and I've got 5 different techniques for each of those 4 types. And I'm gonna figure out which 1.5 that you are. And so I'm not really listening. I'm playing a game of connect the dots.
Oh, you better preach. That's true.
You walk into a situation like that where your head is so full of knowledge and assumptions that you think you know what they're saying before they say it. And one of the things we teach, my full-time job, what I do primarily is working with Aslan Training and Development as a senior consultant. When we're there teaching, we teach a whole module on matching communication style. The first part of that is to clear your cache. You want to listen to learn and get rid of all the assumptions, get all the BS out of your brain so you can just take it in for what it's worth and observe it for what it is, not for what you think it should be or what category it fits in. And there's a danger there for all these junior salespeople or any old salesperson that went to a new training to try to pigeonhole people.
That's right. Awesome. And I want you to, by the way, JD, you need to listen to this too, because when you're walking into an interview, anything, that's a sales call. You're selling yourself to the other person. So you got to go in there, and the whole thing, when I first got started, they would tell you, listen, if there's a fish on the wall, talk about the fish. Man, my entire career, I've been looking for the dang fish. Not one time in my whole life has someone had a fish on, except one time they had one of those fake ones where you press the button and it sings, don't worry, be happy, and it flaps around. And you can't really talk about that, and it doesn't work. So even don't go in with a planned story, because it'll never happen. You just got to be confident with enough stuff. Hey, I don't want
Yo, Deej, on the fish thing, right? Looking for the fish.
Yeah.
I heard about when I was in process engineering for a while, and a guy told me he was a manufacturer's rep going into the factory, and he saw the picture of the sailboat sitting behind the guy's desk, And he did the same thing. He's like, I want to talk about sales. Oh, you're a sailboat guy. What's that picture all about? And the guy leaned in and said, I just put that picture of a sailboat there for you dumbass salespeople to come in and looking for something to talk about. I'm here to talk business. I never sailed a day in my life.
That's awesome. That's the way to go. Well, that's good. Let's finish this up with some war stories, and then tell us what you do, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Chris, you got a war story about a sales call? If you got nothing yet, I'll go to Cruz.
Yeah, why don't you start with the professionals?
Okay. Well, start with Cruz first. Tell us a good war story, and then tell us what you do at the end. And then we'll move on. So, what do you got?
All right. So, one of the best war stories is probably, and sticking with the same topic of trying to connect with your prospect, right? And I'm gonna talk about a tool that I use, and then I'm gonna talk about how I applied that in this situation. And I'll do it quickly. But Jason, I could have said it best, because there's a difference, and if there's probably one thing that I'd like to leave the audience with today, and even to explore this a little bit more in your own minds, but listening with the intent to listen is much different than listening with the intent to reply. And when you're listening with the intent to listen, then you are truly engaged with that prospect. Then you're making eye contact. You're using good listening skills and good listening technique. And you have figured out a way to make that prospect the center of the universe. At that moment in time. And when you're listening with the intent to reply, then you are listening with the intent to tell your own story, right? And to tell your own stuff. And here's the situation, or the war story that goes along with this. I'm in with one of my sales reps, and we're calling on one of the largest petroleum companies in this area here in Atlanta. And this is when I was with the background screening company that I was with before. And so we set up this great call with them. We're meeting with their senior VP of HR. We're meeting with their senior, two other senior level people that are in the room. And we're talking about, their need structure. And we're doing a very good discovery. We're getting a lot of information. And then here it comes. The questioning starts to come from the senior leadership. And one of the questions that we heard was, well, do you service large companies, in the US? And do you consider yourself a large national background screening provider, right? And I heard that, and all of a sudden the bell went off, and my sales rep kind of jumped forward, like he was ready to go, ready to answer the question, get up on the soapbox, pound his chest, tell them how big we are, how great we are, how wonderful we can service them. Was just ready to just spill the beans, right? And we were on a conference call. I had to put my hand in front of his face and stop him. I'm like, stop, don't say anything. I said, listen, Julie, I said, I really appreciate the question. And I promise you, we're going to get there. I said, but there's a reason why you're asking that question. Can you tell me why? And she said,
boom,
we're with a large national provider right now. And even though we consider ourselves, we're a Fortune 500 company, we feel like we're a little fish in a big pond, and we need more service. We want to be with a company that's has more of a regional player kind of focus, but can service us at a national level. We need somebody that's going to treat us, and give us better customer service, better turnaround times, better things, right? And so, and my sales rep he was amazed.
Yeah, he would have blown it.
Yeah.
He would have blown the whole.
He would have blown
it. By just simply answering the question and not turning up the listening ears and really engaging with the prospect.
Awesome. Well, so JD, that was awesome. JD, earlier we spoke, and let me tell you about this guy. And he was somewhat afraid to talk to me because he thought I was gonna, call him a wimp to get started or whatever. And I'm not. But he's looking, and he actually listen to this. I want you all to listen to this. So he redid his LinkedIn profile and all that stuff. It was almost done. And he goes, I haven't clicked on the thing yet to let recruiters find me.
Yes.
You're
Why
invisible.
Yeah. Why
You
not?
know, so he decided to be a secret agent.
Yeah.
And he makes it hard. And then I looked up.
Yeah.
Looked up his, his contact thing, Jason. You know, their contact thing there,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
have all that information. No telephone number. The hell.
Live and learn.
Yeah. And so all this stuff, and then his question was to me, I don't know what to write on my little thing. His to do thing. What is it? What is it called? Your little profile. He didn't know what to write. So tell him what I told you to do.
Just reference something that, if you're a company that has outside field people, you likely have different issues like motivating them, guiding them, training them. If you have issues like this, reach out to me.
Yeah, but basically what we did was we went on LinkedIn with him, and I had him fix all those other things, and now he was live, and so now he was forced to write something in that thing, because you could sit around and pretend like you're going to do something forever and never get it done.
Yeah.
Success loves what, Jason?
Pressure.
Speed, baby. Success loves speed.
Like that scene in Forrest Gump where he starts running down the driveway. That's the vision of my head.
That's it. There we go.
I've got my war story.
All right, hit us with your war story.
Okay. Back in the days of record stores, and I worked for Sony, I was a sales rep for what's called a one-stop. They had record stores as a chain, but then independent mom and pop stores would order from them. And they were massive, especially for country music and for gospel music, and they were located in Nashville. And so it was my time to sit down with the buyer and sell him the new Alan Jackson album. And what would happen when an artist, when you were about to sell a particular album, they would scramble and try to make something go gold or platinum or multi-platinum, is because it was a key selling point. And so we did that with Alan Jackson. And what also we would do in Nashville at the time was we would have a platinum party or a gold party, depending on the artist. And we would invite all the buyers and all the accounts out to, hang out with Alan Jackson, get their pictures with their wives and all of that good stuff. The fun part of the music business, which quickly turned south. So anyway, I'm sitting in his office, and he's got his big, phone right in front of him, and I'm giving him the pitch, and I'm getting all the drop ships, and I'm pulling in the discounts, and I've got a huge number to hit for Alan Jackson, one that biggest number I ever had to hit, and I got it. I got the sale, and it was massive, and I felt really good about it. And he said, I heard that there's an Alan Jackson platinum party that's happening on Friday. And I said, yeah, cool. You guys, we'll see you there, because I had just assumed he always went to them. He said, yeah, I didn't get my invite. I said, oh, okay. And so I grabbed his phone, I picked up the phone, and I called the label right in front of him. Surely there was an issue. And I'm sitting there, and I said, yeah, I'm here with, let's call him Mr. X. We just secured the order for Alan Jackson and everything. And he didn't get his invite to the platinum party on Friday. Oh, she says, that party, we decided to cut back a little bit, and the party is really just for family only. And of course, I'm holding the phone like this. He can hear what she's saying. Oh. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. And I was not expecting that. And so I froze, and I said, okay, thanks. And I hung up the phone. He looked across the desk, and he said, I'll tell you what, take that Alan Jackson order I just gave you, cut it in half, and tell the family to order the other half.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope you fixed that. By the way,
I did.
You're all invited to the Deej Platinum Party, and you could take pictures with Jason, because he's the best guy here.
And all the listeners can come too.
And all the listeners come too.
There you go.
Well, I really appreciate you guys all being here and doing this stuff. And anybody who's here watching, why don't you guys everybody get a quick 30-second what you do, and then we could rock.
Hey, we didn't get a war story from our friend Jason. Come on, Jason.
That's right.
I got a war story.
Oh, he gave the first war story.
Did I really?
I don't think so.
Do your work.
I don't know if I did.
All right.
I know you did.
But you know, if we're out of time, Deej, far be it from me to disrupt.
Well, I'm just thinking about poor Crispin Cruz. You know what? I wouldn't feel right. I don't think I'd be able to sleep tonight if I don't hear a good.
I'm not going to be able to sleep if he doesn't impart that.
I can't wait for it.
Right.
You know, we don't want the war story to show up on his podcast, and then not be on the live stream.
That's right.
Yeah, so one time I was on the Deej's podcast and they didn't let me do my full war story. That was the most.
By the way, it's the Deej cast.
The Deej, that would be better. It doesn't say podcast.
Yeah.
You need to change that to the Dan Jourdan Deej cast.
Yeah, that's right. There we go.
Rebranding that happened there.
I love it.
No, I just to set the stage, it was my first job at IBM. By the time it was over, I'd had about 4 different jobs at IBM. You know, as you know, IBM stands for I've been moved. Right?
Nice.
And no, just so you know, for the last 18 months at IBM, they were changing our territory, our compensation plan, and our product mix every quarter. So that was tough. Yeah. Anyway, so my first job, I was doing inside sales for this OEM type of contract, calling into Canada from Atlanta, Georgia. Know how they figured that out. And I was calling on these different customers to get a technical win to put IBM software in there. And there was this one customer I was calling on where I got the, director of operations. He was like, listen, CEO's on a warpath. He wants IBM out. They already had a contract with us and he wanted us out because he was sick of the way they were treating him. And one of the things we teach here at Aslan Training is about caring more for the customer, putting that first so you can learn more and do more for them. And I was the first one in all the hundreds of IBMs they had crawling all over them that took the time to figure out what the real problem was and figure it out. And in about 3 hours, I solved a problem that had taken them 8 months of being pissed at IBM for. And just that little bit of work, that little bit of going the extra mile to help them out, turn that customer around and stop them from throwing us out of there. And to this day, that's the proudest story. Because it's the first time I did that. I had to do it a lot of other times, but that was the first time I was able to do it. And I worked with that customer for the next 2 years. And just a month ago, I could still pick up the phone and call Medusa Medical out there in Canada, in Nova Scotia, and still talk to them because we became fast friends because I started with taking care of them, putting the customer first. And meeting their needs. And that kind of set me on a path to that being the foundation of my entire sales strategy. And was it tough? It was tough, but it set the groundwork for everything I did to be successful.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome. Great. All right. So what company are you with again?
So I work as a senior consultant for Aslan Training and Development. I'm also the founder of Sales Synergistics at Cigre LLC, CIGRIE LLC. The author of the upcoming book, Sales Synergistics. I'm also the city leader for Bunker Labs, which is an entrepreneur group for military veterans, and a partridge in a pear tree.
All right. He's got it all going on. All right. And I think he also has the Sales Proverbs, Wisdom of the Ages. He's also purchased my book, so you can do that too. All right. JD, real quick, what do you do? And what are you looking to do?
I'm an aspiring client manager with many years experience looking to help your clients, just as we talked about, satisfy all their needs and desires.
Awesome. That's
Charlotte,
good.
North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina. Crispin Cruz, what do you do?
Yes, here in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. And with the company, I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Sales Arbiter. And we just help companies grow. We build sales process to help them grow.
Yeah, and it works. I've seen it do it. And then my man here, Chris Stone, he's the one who sets this whole thing up, producing me, doing all this stuff. He's going to make me a star. I really appreciate it. So tell him what you do in your own words.
I'm a sales and marketing director. I work with people, with brands, with products, and amplify their reach, whether it's through podcasting, live streaming, or any other ways, whether it's social media and whatnot. And I'm Mr. Producer Guy when it comes to the Deej.
Yeah, and if anybody wants a podcast and this kind of stuff to do with them, he's the man to call, Chris Stone. And you should thank your friend over at StreamYard.
Yes. Shout out to StreamYard for making such a great product, making us look good. And oh, by the way, did you guys know that Dan put out his podcast this week? I mean, what are you guys doing right now?
Yeah.
You got to grab your phone. Here's what you're going to do real quick, Dan. This is where, we're not on a time limit. We're going to show.
Okay. Well,
everybody's got one. Everybody's got one of these, right?
That's right.
That's right. Everybody's got, if you've got one of these, you've got a podcast app. You search for podcast. It's this purple app that's right here. Then you click the podcast app, all right? And you type in the Sales Energizer. Yeah.
Perfect.
You type in the Sales Energizer, and you're going to get this on your screen, all right? When you get that on your screen, there's a big purple button. It says subscribe.
Yeah, you see that?
We'll do it.
Yeah, you do that,
You
and then
click subscribe, and then
you gotta push the button.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then you get your daily dose of the D.
Wait, you're not done. After you do that, you scroll down, and there's a way for you to rate it. You don't have to listen it to rate it 5 stars. You can just hit the 5 stars.
Yeah. Rate it.
do it
Look,
right
look,
away.
we already got a bunch of reviews. People are reviewing it. They're saying that the Deej is amazing.
Yeah.
Don't blink, and make sure you have a pen and a paper ready for all the sales and life nuggets you'll get on this podcast.
Nuggets.
All right.
Nuggets. You're going to get nuggets on this podcast.
So next time, join the live cast. We're going to talk about nuggets. Look at
that. And make sure you're again, Jason, your podcast Sales Synergistics, but it's under Pro Business Channel.
Under Pro Business Channel, go to probusinesschannel.com and you can find me listed under the Sales Synergistics label under podcasts.
You got to have me on that podcast, by the way.
You know what? You, Mr. Deej, were one of the first ones I posted up, and I've got about 11 recorded, and 3 are posted right now, and you, sir, are one of them.
Look at that. So we'll go check that out. Chris Stone will link to it, and he'll do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Backlinks all over the place.
Sounds good.
Brian says, nice job, Dan. And then we've got love the DJ cast. Well, he's close with the Deej cast.
That's the Deej cast. He's almost there.
Jordan
Favors too much of a wimp to put his picture there. Tom Nixon's not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Yeah, but you got shout outs galore on here. So Tom, Stu, thanks for all the shout outs.
Super Dan. Now Stu is a friend of mine from I knew him when I was 2 years old. And he still doesn't know how to capitalize Super Dan. Jeez. Okay. All right, guys. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Well, if your sales team sucks and you don't know what to do, call Deej 678-910-9912. Call Deej at 678-910-9912.
Oh,